For the past 10 seasons, at least one team has gone worst to first. Can the Carolina Panthers be the 11th team this time around? Tune in to find out. What is going on, everyone? It is Connor, the co-host with the most, back with another Clutch Crew Sports 2022 NFL team preview, this time looking at the Carolina Panthers. We've done a lot of these NFL previews so far. I think we have, after this one, there'll be about 12 or 11 left after this. So if you've already missed your team's preview, make sure you go back and watch that. If not, we are getting close to the end. We're more than halfway. We're 2/3 of the way through the teams, just about. And we'll be getting to all the rest of the teams shortly. But on this episode, we're going to be talking about the Carolina Panthers. As you guys know, I am a Steelers fan, but I do live in North Carolina, so this is my local hometown team, the Carolina Panthers, that, they have only been around for about a couple years longer than I've been alive. So they've been here my whole life. Unfortunately, I don't live in Charlotte. I live in Raleigh, so I don't get to go to too many games. But yeah, let's get right into it with the Carolina Panthers, the team who finished in last place in the NFC South last year. So the big news with the Carolina Panthers, starting off first of all, is going to be the quarterback battle that is going on right now in training camp. We talked about this a little bit on the last episode of Clutch Crew Sports. We talked about various quarterback battles that were going around the league in training camp. And this is one of the ones that we were talking about. The Carolina Panthers with Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and to a lesser extent, Matt Corral. Matt Corral, the third-round pick out of Ole Miss that they got in the draft. Now, he doesn't seem to really factor into this battle too much. He's kind of just, there. He's there to study and, possibly be the quarterback of the future. It's really between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. And in my opinion, I think I said this on the podcast too, that if the Panthers haven't already made a decision that this is going to be Baker Mayfield, then they're really wasting their time, because Sam Darnold has pretty much proven that he's not starting quarterback material in the league. A lot of people thought that all of the struggles that he had when he was in New York, that was kind of just a product of him playing for the Jets. The Jets are a really bad organization. They've had a lot of struggles over the past few seasons, especially when they had Adam Gase at head coach, which is what Sam Darnold was playing under. And the Jets as a whole have just been a dumpster fire, and everyone kind of saw Darnold as kind of being like that Matthew Stafford type quarterback. Okay, he's a hidden gem on a really bad team, which that was true with Matthew Stafford. He was kind of a hidden gem on a really bad Lions team, but that was definitely not the case with Sam Darnold with the Jets. He's just a bad quarterback. He's he's backup material, but he's not starting quarterback material. He kind of proved that last season. It was pretty disastrous, some of the games he played for the Panthers. And it's unfortunate because it looked like he was going to be good. I saw a few of their early games in the season, and I thought, okay, this guy, he might actually be good. Maybe I was wrong, but no, it turns out he's still bad. So they brought in Baker Mayfield. They traded for him. The Browns, they got him for basically nothing. I think it was a 5th-round pick or something. That's all they had to give up to get him from the Browns. And, in my mind, I think it's definitely an upgrade over Sam Darnold. I'm not really the biggest Baker Mayfield fan. I don't think he's that great, but he's at least a solid quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. He'll get the job done. He's not going to make as many mistakes as Sam Darnold. He's definitely the right guy in this situation for them, because I was thinking that the Panthers were maybe going to take a quarterback earlier in the draft, but I do think they made the right call in the first round by drafting Ike Ekwonu, the offensive lineman out of NC State, because where they were picking, I think it was number 5 they were picking, that was just too early to take any of these quarterbacks, so good on them for getting that, and then also going out and grabbing Baker Mayfield from Cleveland. But like I said, if they haven't decided already that this is going to be Baker Mayfield, then they're just wasting their time. And, I would be highly shocked if they were to come out and say that Sam Darnold was the starting quarterback. That would really surprise me. So I think that's it for the quarterback. And like I said, Matt Corral, Darnold is obviously going to be the backup, but it will be interesting to see if Matt Corral gets any sort of talk or hype or anything like that. If Baker starts playing bad, normally you think okay, Baker starts playing bad, everyone's going to start calling for Sam Darnold. I wonder if he starts playing bad, if anyone's going to start calling for Matt Corral, because they all saw how it went last year with Sam Darnold. Maybe if Baker doesn't live up to expectations, they're going to want the team to, get some reps out of the young rookie quarterback. Or maybe we could see Matt Corral play in a few games if, say we get towards the end of the year and the Panthers are like 4-9 or something like that, and the season is lost. Might as well get your young quarterback some reps in some games. It couldn't hurt to get him prepared for the future. But as of right now, Baker Mayfield should be the guy, and if he's not the guy, then I think they're going to need to fire Matt Rhule sooner than everyone thinks they're going to if he wants to put Sam Darnold over Baker Mayfield. This is coming from someone who doesn't really like Baker Mayfield either. So that should be the expectations there. Moving on to the other side of the ball for the Panthers. Now, the Panthers, the defense is definitely the strength of this team. The offense, you've got Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore and a couple other weapons over there, but the defense is really the strength of this team. They have a lot of young stars on the defensive side of the ball. They drafted Derek Brown and Jeremy Chin and Brian Burns not too long ago. They drafted J.C. Horn last year, who unfortunately went out with an injury at towards the beginning of the year, but he was looking really good at the beginning of the year when he was playing. So I definitely expect him to take another step forward this year. Him and Pat Surtain were the top two corners from last year, and Surtain looked really good all year. Horn also looked really good in the couple games that he played. I'm definitely expecting big things out of him. He should pair really nicely on that defense. Brian Burns has turned into a sack machine. He's definitely, in my opinion, capable of double-digit sacks every year. He's going to be the next great Carolina Panthers edge rusher since Julius Peppers retired. Derek Brown, he's just a big, strong, fast, he's your typical, freak of nature defensive lineman. He gets in there and blows up the run game. He can get pressure on the quarterback. Another great star. And Jeremy Chin, he was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. He was also in the running, of course, for Defensive Rookie of the Year when he was a rookie. Jeremy Chin, he's one of the best safeties in the game right now. The Panthers have a lot going for them on this side of the ball, and I definitely expect the Panthers this year. I expect them to have a top 10 defense. They have some other pieces on there. I didn't put Shaq Thompson on here. He's another really good piece. It's really important to have that really solid, really good middle linebacker to run your defense, and Shaq Thompson does that really well. And those five guys, the core five: Burns, Thompson, Horn, Chin, and Brown, those are some of the best young defensive players in the league right now, and it's definitely, the future is looking very bright for the Panthers defense. If they can just their defense is not going to be what loses them games, is what I'm saying. The defense is going to keep them in games, even if the offense is struggling. This defense will keep them in it, and, as long as they can just get, decent production out of the offense, I could see this team, being a sleeper to win quite a few games, and possibly be an upset, pick, in their own division. They've got the Buccaneers in their division. No one, in my mind, is really giving them a chance to win any games against the Bucs, but if their defense plays up to the level that I think they can play at, they could definitely steal a game against the Bucs this year, and maybe finish a little bit higher than everyone's thinking. I don't know if this defense can carry them to a playoff run, given where their offense is at, but they can definitely keep them in contention and keep them in the hunt, so to speak. I definitely don't think they're going to be the worst team in the NFC South this year because of that defense. So that's a big key for them there. Now, looking forward to next year, and the two biggest question marks on this team as to what is the future going to look like for them: Christian McCaffrey and Matt Rhule, the head coach. Now, Matt Rhule, out of all the head coaches in the NFL right now, he probably has the hottest seat out of any of them. If you take a list of coaches, and people like to do this every year, which coaches are the most likely to get fired, I guarantee Matt Rhule is sitting at the top of that list. It hasn't really worked out how I thought it was going to with him. I do appreciate, for the Panthers' sake, that they've given him a few years. This is going to be his third year coaching, I believe. And this is basically the Panthers are giving him an ultimatum. This is the last straw. If we don't see any kind of improvement, if we, can't even get to a point where we're trying to at least maybe sniff the playoffs a little bit, then I definitely think that Matt Rhule is going to be gone. I could possibly see him, if the Panthers are struggling, say we get to week 14 and they've only won 3 games, I could see him getting fired before the end of the year. And in my mind, I do think they just need to move on from him. They need to bring in someone who can work with, their young quarterback, Matt Corral, better. And just really kind of get this offense turned around because the defense is set. There's no problems with the defense. They really need to bring in a really, a kind of a quarterbacks type coach, like someone who could develop a quarterback, build an offense, and get things going on that side of the ball because that's really where the problems have been for this Panthers team over the last couple of years. So, like I said, Matt Rhule. Now, if the Panthers make the playoffs, then by all means, or at least if they can kind of get close to if they can kind of get close to the playoffs, I would say keep him. I think he might still get fired in that situation, but if they make the playoffs, by all means keep him because now we've seen improvement. But if they miss the playoffs again, especially if they miss the playoffs, and they have a record like they had last year, then he's going to be gone potentially before the end of the season. So definitely these are dire times for Matt Rhule. Now, the other piece on this team that is definitely in a little bit of a, interesting situation is Christian McCaffrey. Now, McCaffrey, when he's been healthy, he is the best dual threat running back in the league when he's healthy. I mean, the dude, if he's healthy, he's a lock for 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving. He's a lock for getting probably 2,500 plus yards from scrimmage if he is healthy. Now, that's the problem, though, is that he hasn't been fully healthy in about two seasons now. Like the last couple of seasons, he's been dealing with injuries. I know he's burned a lot of people who have taken him number one overall in fantasy. Thankfully, I haven't been one of those people. But, there's been a lot of people over the last couple of seasons that have taken him number one in fantasy drafts, and then he goes and gets injured, and then their team is screwed, which, like I said, he's one of the best. He's the best dual threat running back if he's healthy, especially, in PPR leagues. He grabs a lot of catches. He does a lot in the passing game for a relatively weakish receiving core. DJ Moore is really good, but after that, it kind of falls off. So McCaffrey is a huge part of the passing game for the Carolina Panthers, and it's just important for him to stay healthy because if he can't stay healthy, then in my mind, the Panthers need to move on from him and try and find something else because, trying to pay him a big contract because he's going to command a big contract. I can't say whether or not I can't remember if he's signed one or not already, but, you don't want to be paying him all this money just to get hurt and not play half your game. So this, in my mind, is also the last chance for Christian McCaffrey to stay healthy, prove that he can perform at that high level. Because if he can do that, then yeah, absolutely. Keep him, sign him to a long-term deal, like whatever you want. But if he gets hurt again this year and only plays like half the season again, then I think the Panthers need to be done with him. They need to, either release him or try and find a way to trade him because unfortunately for them, if he gets hurt again, his trade value is not going to be very good. If he comes out and has another really good year and you decide that you want to trade him, then great, his trade value is fine. But if he gets hurt again, his trade value is going to be really low because, a lot of these teams, they're not going to, because he's going to want money and you're not going to want to pay him, like superstar level money and, just for him to get hurt and give up whatever, draft picks or whatever that you're going to give up for him in a trade. So this, like I said, it's the last straw for both of them in my mind. If the Panthers miss the playoffs, Rhule's gone. If McCaffrey gets hurt again, or if he's not, to the level that he was before, I think McCaffrey's gone too. So looking ahead to their schedule is definitely a bit on the tougher side. They draw the NFC West and the AFC North as their two divisions that they're going against, which is definitely not the easiest task. The Cardinals, Niners, and Rams are all really good teams. They have to play them all back to back, which is really tough. They have to play the Ravens and the Bengals on the road. They get to play the Steelers, and they'll be playing the Browns without Deshaun Watson, so that's at least a plus right there. I could definitely see them at home possibly winning that game. And then they go on the road to play the Giants. The key for me with them is if the Panthers are going to prove to me that they could be, potentially playoff contenders, I think they need to win those first three games. They need to beat Cleveland without Deshaun Watson. They need to beat the Giants, and they need to win that home game against the Saints because the Panthers have had a lot of problems trying to beat the Saints over the last few seasons. I can't remember the last time they beat the Saints, actually. It seems like no matter how good the Panthers are or how bad the Saints are, it's like the Saints are always beating the Panthers. So they need to win those first three games heading into that brutal stretch of Arizona, San Francisco, LA, and Tampa Bay. Like, that's a 4-week gauntlet right there. And then especially, they get a little break when they get to play Atlanta, but then right after that, they have to play Cincinnati on the road. So this is definitely not an easy schedule. It gets a little bit better at the end of the year. They get to play Seattle. They have a home game against Pittsburgh. They get to play Detroit. But it's going to be a brutal run for them. Now, like I said, they need to get the key games for me are those first 3. Those are going to tell me, can the Panthers potentially compete with some of these other good teams? Because if they come out of that stretch 1-2 or even like 0-3, then the season's going to already be lost for them. Because that's, you can't be losing to Cleveland without Deshaun Watson and losing to the Giants and then expect to beat teams like San Francisco and LA and Tampa. So that's the key stretch from right there. Vegas has their over-under set at 6 wins. Last year they were set at 7.5. They went 5-12, so they did go under, finishing in last place in the division. Now, for me, I'm going to say that the Panthers are going to push on 6 wins. Because, like I said, I don't know if I can see them. Well, okay, I'll say that they go over. I'll say they get 7 wins because I think they can beat. Like I said, I think it's very possible that they go 3-0 in the first 3 weeks. I know the Saints are going to be tough, but they get them at home, and I think their defense can stand up to the test. So I'm going to say they win those 3 games, and then, I'm going to say they beat Atlanta probably at least once, because after that, if they can win those 3 games, you've got 2 games against Atlanta, you've got Seattle and Detroit. Those are all winnable games right there. So that's at least 7 wins right there if you can win all the games that you're supposed to. And then maybe they can steal one against one of these other teams. But, I do have a feeling Atlanta will probably beat them at least once. I don't think they'll win both games against Carolina, but I think they'll split 1-1. So I'll give the Panthers 7 wins. I say they go over the 6, but only 7. They'll go 7-10 and miss the playoffs. I don't think they'll be the worst in the division. I think the Falcons are going to be the worst in the South, but I think the Panthers are going to be a very, kind of locked in as the 3rd best team in the South behind New Orleans and Tampa Bay. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of my analysis. If you agree, disagree, do you think the Panthers are going to make the playoffs? Do you think they're going to do even worse than they did last year? If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all of our new NFL team previews. Like I said, we're getting down to it on these. We're getting towards the latter stages of our previews, so there's a lot of them for you guys to go back and watch if you haven't watched them already. And until next time, guys, I will see you later.